Hey guys, Tyler with Meeple Mountain here, bringing you another board game review, this time from our friends over at WizKids Games, and we're going to be checking out their new title, Gates of Mara. This is a worker placement game for up to 4 players, where you will be taking on the role of a clan of elementalists, and you'll be trying to stake your claim on the various elemental gates and Chaos Gate that is set out in the land of Mara. And you're going to do this by sending out your workers, your specialists, your leaders, all these various units that you have, and you're going to be placing them around the board in various locations, trying to stake your claim or influence power onto these gates. Whoever has the most influence at the end of each round will be getting a lot of victory points, and whoever at the end of 4 rounds has the most victory points is the prominent clan. You'll be recognized as the leader and the master of these elemental gates with honor and all the privileges that come with it. The way that you stake your claim to victory is entirely up to you. There are caravans that you can send out on various places to kind of create residual income and get benefits. You can send out your workers onto kind of these mini gates between areas to spread your influence into multiple places at once, or even all of the gates at once, depending on where you go. You can really try to double down in one area to claim banners, which will give your units asymmetric abilities. You can complete objectives to get victory points. There's all kinds of different ways that you can set out and spend your energy in your turn collecting the various resources and stones and elements that you'll need to come out on top. And how you set about that is entirely up to you. The asymmetry and the options are as boundless as the gates themselves. But only one clan can stand at the top after 4 rounds. So will it be you, or will it be someone else? Let's jump in and learn how to play Gates of Mara and see just how you can come out on top. Gates of Mara is a worker placement game for 2 to 4 players in which you'll take on the role of a slightly asymmetric clan vying for control of the elemental gates that are laid out here on the board. The setup of the gates is random for every game, and there will be a various number of them based on the number of players. What you see here is a setup for a 3-player game. We have each of the player areas and their faction boards, their starting setup, as well as the main gate setup in the middle, and the store on the left that contains enchantments, every round's objectives that you can match out, as well as what the Wanderer, who is one of the main figures in the middle of the board, is selling or has for sale in that particular instance of the game. Now, we'll take a closer look at each of these elements, but I want to give a general overview of the game first. As I mentioned before, Gates of Mara is played over 4 rounds, with players sending out their workers by spending energy. Every round, a player has 11 energy to do with as they will. They can spend this in lots of various ways, but one of the predominant ways is sending out workers onto the various locations of the board. Each of your workers has a specific cost. You have some merchants, a specialist, a leader, champion, and 2 enchanters. All of these units have different bases: circles, squares, hexes, or triangles, and those determine where those particular things can go on the board. For instance, we have a particular gate here that has a layout, and you'll notice that this section here has a circle, square, and triangle symbol on the 3 spaces here. That means that your circle base, square base, and triangle base, all but your hexes, your enchanters, could go to those locations. You will take a closer look at it in a minute, but the store on the left has only hexagonal spaces, which means that's the only place your enchanters can go. Only enchanters can go there. In between the gates, we have these small portals. They only have square and triangle symbols. And in the very middle, we have the main section of the board that has keys. It will hold keys, which are one of the scoring opportunities in the game. Whoever has the most keys at the end of the game will get 20 points. That location only holds a triangle. So as you can see, there are strategies about where you want to send units and how you want to maximize where your units go. The other aspect to consider is that as you place units, wherever you place them, you will be gaining influence in the gates that are in or correspond to that location. If you go to a particular gated region, you will gain influence tracked for that round by this little tracker up to 9 based on which units you place there and what you do. If you go to one of the purple side gates, you'll split your influence between the 2 adjacent gates, and if you send your leader to the middle, you'll gain an influence in all 4 of the gates. How you gain your influence matters, because as you get to win influence on a particular region, you will start to lay claim to it by putting these tokens down, 2 or 1, or if you're lucky, sometimes even more. And as you go, whoever has the most of these tokens at the end of the game will gain points for each gate that they have the majority of control in. So the way that you delegate your influence to these gates is very important and key to the strategy of how you'll succeed in Gates of Mara. Each of the gates and the elementalists and wanderer in the middle all will play a role in how you act and interact with the board. But from a general sense, the idea is you'll be spending your influence to send your workers out, claim various benefits and bonuses and banners and things throughout the places that you can go on the board, all while trying to stake your claim on these various gates to gain tokens, to gain points at the end of the game. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at a specific player board. Then we'll look at some of the specific areas that you can go with your units. All right, here we have an example of a player board. This is the yellow player, and all of the components that you would kind of walk into a game of Gates of Mara with. You'll see on the right we have our inventory for our elemental gems. There are elemental gems of each of the planes, so there's an air gem, a fire gem, an earth gem, and a water gem. Air is pink, water is blue, just for clarification. You have your energy. You start every round with 11 energy that you'll spend to do things. Your caravans that you can send out onto the various board locations, as well as a place to store any victory points or key tokens that you may acquire throughout the game. Every player has a set number of workers. You'll see here we have our 7 here. And you have your merchants, specialist, leader, champion, and 2 enchanters. Each of them again have these really nice bases that let you know exactly where those particular units can go as you're looking out on the board. And also you have the cost and energy to send them out, as well as the various actions or abilities that they have that they can do. Now, every player pretty much has a relatively standard slew of things that they can do, with the exception of their specialist. Every specialist starts the game a little bit asymmetric. You have your base specialist that goes out and can go to wherever a circle can go, and it will be able to give you, this is the symbol for kind of an influence in a gate region. You can pay additional fees to utilize your asymmetric ability, which we see here. This particular faction will allow you to claim a resource gem of your choice and work with the Wanderer. The Wanderer is kind of a traveling merchant, a salesman that moves around the board. And we'll look at him a little bit more closely here in just a second. You'll see again your leader. You have all of the various options available to your leader as well as your champion. So there are some asymmetry and options right from the start, but the wonderful thing about Gates of Mara is that you can build some amazing asymmetry with your characters as you go. You do that by using banner and enchantment cards. Let's talk about banners first. You'll notice that many of our units have a banner under them, with the exception of the enchanters. That's how many banners that particular unit can hold. And banners are cards, just like a few examples here, that give your characters additional asymmetric abilities. For instance, Banner of Unity allows you to place a figure in an occupied space. Normally, a space is first come, first served. With the Banner of Unity, you can go where someone else is. And you could slap that, for instance, under your leader, and now your leader can go where someone else's leader already is. This is obviously a game changer, and having these banners and choosing the right one for your strategy is key. Now, you'll notice again, merchants can have 2 along with the champion. Your leader and specialist can only have 1, so you need to choose your banners very wisely. But as you slot these in, you'll begin to develop additional powers and kind of favored units almost. So the use of banners is very, very strong. Also, we have enchantments. Enchantments can go on specific units, as indicated on the right-hand side. They show what type of base that can go on. So, for instance, the Emblem of Peace can go on your enchanter. The cost is shown in crystals that you would need to spend, and it has some points that it will give you, victory points that it will give you when you play it, as well as a special ability, again, for that unit. So you can see how stacking your enchantments and your banners can really give you some game-breaking units and amazing strategies that will unfold. Again, we'll take a closer look at how and where you go to purchase enchantments in just a second, but kind of wanted to showcase what you're walking into as you start a game of Gates of Mara. All right, here we have broken down the player boards, the board of the game of Gates of Mara, and have put it into just kind of a digestible view here so you can take a look at some of the gates that you would play with in a game. Now, in any game of Gates of Mara, there are going to be the Wanderer, 2 elemental lords, and a varied amount of gates, plus the chaos gate, depending on the number of players. But here again, this is the setup for a 3-player game. So again, the board would be set up in a round section with some of these small little dividers around there. But let's take a look at just the gates and talk about how they work. Now again, remember, you can place your units here to go and gain influence in these various gates, to stake your claim, to get points for the end. But there's lots of other things that these areas do as well. Some of these gates, the main elemental gates, are all going to have locations where you can gain banners. Again, we talked that banners are asymmetric abilities that can go onto your units to help you gain energy or victory points, or even really powerful things like being able to be placed on an occupied space and all kinds of neat things. Also, in certain places where you go, you can gain elemental crystals. You'll see here, like for instance, if you go and pay the additional cost, you can gain fire crystals or earth crystals, air and fire. All of those, again, those crystals are what's going to help you pay for enchantments and various actions on the board. Also here, you'll note this is where caravans can go. When you place a caravan, you'll get the corresponding bonus when you put your caravan space on that location. And yeah, you'll be able to kind of wander around and use these various actions to gain influence and hopefully stake your claim on these gates while claiming benefits and bonuses. But also in the midst of this, you have the Wanderer and the Elemental Lords that are moving around the gates doing their own shenanigans. Let's talk first about the Wanderer, because we'll look at him more in detail in a minute. But effectively, he is a traveling merchant. And whenever you place a figure, a unit, anything in a space where he is at, you can utilize his sale ability. And those are going to change every round, but effectively, he's going to offer to trade you certain gems for onyx gems, various elemental gems, or even victory points. All of those are really helpful in that it'll give you the resources you need, and it can give you access to premium resources. Again, the onyx gems, which are black gems that are worth lots of victory points, or again, just straight VP if you need those to try and eke ahead into the win. The Elemental Lords are going to allow you to do various things based on what they are. For instance, we have the Air Lord here. When you place a figure where he is at, you'll get a gem, a basic gem of color of your choice. So that's always nice, a little extra resource bump. The Fire Lord doesn't give you a bonus. He actually is fighting you for influence in a region. He starts whatever region he's in with 4 influence. And if you don't get more influence than him, you don't get to stake a claim. But if you ever do get more influence than the Fire Lord, you will be able to stake your claim like normal, and on top of that, you will get a fire banner. It's a specific banner that he offers, a banner just like these that can go onto your units, meeting your unit requirements, and it gives you a bonus. And so he's offering you effectively free banners if you can get enough influence to beat him. That's always very nice. The last thing that Fire Lords or Elemental Lords do is, if you look at a region and you have 3 figures in or adjacent to that region, so again, being in the region or on the purple spaces or even the blue central core space, you can get a key. So you can at max gain 2 additional keys every round by having figures where the Elemental Lords are. And these Lords will move or maybe not move from round to round. First place player will choose where they go to which locations. Is a little bit of an advantage for being the first place player. So this is the main board and where you'll be fighting out and duking it out to try and have the most influence in these regions. The last thing that we need to look at is kind of the shop board, where we're going to track the rounds, the banners, and one of the most important things we haven't looked at yet, the objectives, which is another huge way that you can gain victory points throughout a game of Gates of Mara. All right, here we have the kind of marketplace and main hub of the game of Gates of Mara. Here's where we'll track the rounds. Again, after 4 rounds, the game is over. We'll also track the turn order for that particular round, which is, of course, who will determine where the Elemental Lords go, as well as who goes first. It's always helpful. This is the Wanderer. Every round, this will change, but we can see here that the Wanderer deck will rotate and offer various things. For instance, on this card, if you have 2 air gems, you can choose to get 2 gems of your choice and a victory point. You can get an onyx gem or even a key. And again, these will change round to round, but there's lots of variability and strategy in how you can activate the Wanderer. Also, we have where your elementalist will go. There's a set number based on player count. So again, in our 3-player game, there would be 3 options. When you place an elementalist here, you can take 2 of the available enchantments that are there and place them on the units that they're allowed to go on. You need to pay the cost in the top. You'll get the victory points, place them on your unit, and you'll have access to a new ability. I talked about this a little bit before, but I want to be clear. Every unit can have a max of what's called 3 attachments. That's banners or enchantments. So if a unit can have 2 banners and it has 2 banners, it can only have 1 enchantment. Conversely, it could have 3 enchantments or a banner and 2, whatever. As long as you don't have more than 3 things ever stacked on one unit, you're good to go. Again, we have our banners that'll sit here and that will come out round to round. Again, banners are that other kind of modification for your unit. I wanted to showcase the fire banners as well. They're all the same, but they're effectively going to just be a really nice buff. They're going to give you an influence and a victory point as a banner. So if you beat the Fire Lord, that's what you'll expect to get and can put on one of your units. The last thing we have to talk about is the objectives. Every round you're going to have objectives, and they're going to give you something to do. For instance, discover legendary heroes. Have 3 or more figures with an enhancement, or an enchantment, excuse me, and a banner on them. So if your tableau has 3 units with 1 of each, you would achieve this and get 4 victory points. These will change every round, so you can bank on there being 8 things to compete for, but you can see that 8 victory points is a nice chunk of change, especially. So it gives you kind of a direction to plan as you go through each round, and it really gives the game some nice rails to guide you if you're unsure what to do, but does not obviously kind of take away your agency or your choice. And that, in a nutshell, is how you play Gates of Mara. I hope you enjoy getting a quick look at how to play and what's in the box and what you can expect when you purchase this game. But what did I think about it? Well, I really enjoyed this game and was super excited about it. A long time ago, I got to try a demo of it when I was actually prepping to review Seastead. One of the folks at WizKids just kicked this up as a demo too, because they had me as a captive audience, and I'm so glad they did. It was really fun, and it captivated me, and I was excited to try it and had been waiting to get my hands on a physical copy for quite some time because COVID. But I'm really glad and was so happy when this got here because it's a really good game. There's a lot of positives to talk about. One, I love worker placement games anyway, but I like worker placement games that are a little extra thinky. And so the fact that your units can only go to specific places based on their type is really nice for me. I love the strategy of how are you going to maximize your energy in your turn in a way that's going to push your agenda forward. And you can't just throw out units. You have to think very calculated, very strategically about where you want those units to go. Do you want to start off the first early rounds trying to get banners and enchantments to buff your units so that later rounds they're more powerful? Do you want to kind of split the difference? Do you want to really double down on getting those early stake your claims on the gates, get your influence up so that you can hopefully get those points? Do you want to go for keys? Because that's a lot of points too at the end of the game. There's lots of ways that you can play, and I love the freedom and agency and choice that Gates of Mara gives you. Again, benefit, this game is relatively cost effective. I love the standees, everything about the tokens and the cardboard chits. They almost have this like satin finish on them, which is really nice. All of the tokens and everything, even though they're just cardboard, feel really nice in your hand. They're weighty, they have nice, they're sturdy, and that finish is just really, really enjoyable. All that to say, there's a lot in here in the box. I love the asymmetry of the factions. It kind of leaves you coming back, wanting you to come back for more, try a different faction out. Even though they're very similar, there's enough asymmetry that you're like, I wonder how that little ability would work or change what I do. Having different lords, different gates, there's a lot of replayability here because nothing's set in stone, and that fluidity is what makes Gates of Mara a gem, in my opinion. There's not a lot of negatives to speak of. The game is thinky, so if you're not into that, that may not be your favorite aspect of the game. And the only other thing to note is there's not really a lot of strong catch-up mechanics. If you fall behind because of a poor decision you made or just an excellent decision an opponent made, there's really not a lot of ways in the game naturally for you to catch up. This game definitely leaves the balance and the score to the players. The score will be what the score will be. And so if that's in your group you really like games with catch-up mechanics, there isn't one here in Gates of Mara. But I don't think it needs one. I think that this game provides a lot of scoring opportunities and a lot of variability that allows you to capitalize on the freedom and, again, that agency that I just really love to see in a game like this. And so if you're looking for a worker placement game where there are some fun asymmetric abilities that you can build out for your faction, some neat quirks that are going to make you stop and think and maybe think again, then I would encourage you to check out Gates of Mara. I really enjoyed it, and I honestly think that you will too. But I want to thank you, as always, for coming to Meeple Mountain for board game-related content, needs, and reviews, and I hope you'll continue to do so in the future. So Happy New Year, and as always, happy gaming.
Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Check out some of our other Meeple Mountain content. I promise you won't be disappointed. This is Tyler Williams, signing off.